Hello, everybody. I'm just going to wait until I can see you all on Facebook. I'm going to go back to Zoom really quick and make sure that we are in gallery view so you can see both of us. All right, I'm going to assume that we're live. Hello, Thea.
Hello, how are you?
I'm awesome. Like I was telling you before we got on camera, it's my first San Diegan rainstorm or storm front, and it's gloomy and windy, and the waves are like super high. So if I get distracted by the weather, I apologize in advance. But rain is a thing here. It's not a normal occurrence. So
No,
it's like
absolutely.
kind of exciting.
Yeah, and nobody knows how to drive in the rain in LA. So if you go out and drive, be careful.
Yeah, yeah. I'm staying home. My son just went. Well, we're in San Diego, and San Diegans are like it's a different vibe than LA.
It's true.
So, but we're soft. And it's a little colder down here too than LA because most of LA is inland,
Mm,
right? Whereas San Diego proper is on the coast.
right.
So it's a really different climate. That's the thing that's so interesting about California is all the microclimates.
Yeah,
So
true.
so most of LA is actually hotter, drier, and smoggier than me. I'm kind of like I'm gloomy a lot of the time because I'm like right on the water. All
Hmm.
right, but today we're going to talk about dreams. I'm just going to open this up here. Hey Jen. Oh hey Diana. It's so good to see you. So today I have the amazing Theo Litsios here. Did I say it right again?
Yep, Thea Litsios. Very good.
Okay, cool. To talk about dreams. And we had so much fun talking about them on the podcast. And today I thought it would be kind of cool if we could see some kind of your process in action, if that's good. And people might want to ask specific questions about their dreams or dreams in general. I can start off with some of my dreams to discuss because I had a bunch last night, and then we can go from there. So, those of you guys, Thea, introduce yourself while I drink my tea and tell people what you do because I skipped that part, and then we'll launch into it.
Sure. So I am a life coach and I help people both reinvent their lives and find the career that they really, really want to have. I also am a hypnotist and I'm a teacher of active dreaming and active dreaming through Robert Moss, who has written many books. And I've given the titles of some to Victoria so she can post them. Um, and he has what you would call a modern shamanic approach to dreams. So it's dreams the way cultures who value dreams think about dreams, as opposed to our Western culture, which very often dismisses them. So it's a different way of looking at dreams. And I grew up in a dreaming household. My grandmother was from Greece. She was an avid dreamer. She often dreamed of the future. So it was not unusual in my household to sit around the kitchen table and say, "Hey, what'd you dream last night?" Which I gathered after I was an adult and learned that not that's just not everyone's experience. But when you grow up with it, you just think, oh, everybody does this. So yeah,
That's very cool. That is
yeah,
so cool. And I think it's true. We talked about this in the episode too, even with intuition. It's like when it's normalized, when you're a child rather than wait, how do you know that? You can't know that, go away, which is what most of us get. It opens you up not to lose your connection. And I think it's the same thing with the magic of dreams, right? When it's something that's honored and valued in your family and it's something that's normalized to really use your dreams as part of your guidance system,
absolutely.
then it becomes a part of your life and you don't ever have to like shut it down and then find it again, which is magical.
Yes.
So very cool. We already have questions coming in. Hey, Dinah. Diana has a dream question, so I'm going to throw it at you. And I'm going to get mine in here too. And I
Okay.
remember, Theo, you said in the episode that, and if I'm paraphrasing you wrong, you can certainly hop in. But you said that it's really important when you interpret dreams. You don't necessarily grab a book. I have a book, so I don't follow her rules, but you don't necessarily grab a book or listen to what someone else says, right? Because your dreams are your language to you. So it's always important that you feel into that. Is that summarizing you okay?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I would say is that we often think that if we can't understand our dream, we want to look for a resource. We want to look for a book, we want to talk to friends. The problem with books is that they might be helpful, but then again, they might not, because our own personal dream symbols might not align with what, is written in some book. And the other thing is, if when you talk to people about your dreams, you want to make sure you're talking to someone who is respectful. Whenever I'm talking about someone's dreams, and I recommend this, and I actually did send Victoria a sheet of the process that I go through when I talk about dreams, and I'm hoping she'll put that in the group. But
We'll
you
do it.
always want to preface what you say as, if this were my dream, because what you're basically saying by that is, this is my opinion. I might be right, I might be wrong. And there's different ways to hear what people say about your dreams. I mean, someone might share a thought and you're like, absolutely, that's right on. Or someone might share a perspective and you're like, oh, I never thought about that. And the third scenario is someone tells you something about your dream and you're like, absolutely no, that's not true. Now, all of those scenarios are important, because the reality is you've gotten a little piece of information from each one. Because if you're like, oh, I don't know what my dream is about, and someone tells you, I think it's about this, and you're like, absolutely not. You're kind of acknowledging to yourself that you actually know more than you think about that dream. So, yeah.
Yeah. And when people come to me for intuitive readings, I say the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. I'm hearing the guidance. I'm giving you the guidance as I understand it, but you're in the driver's seat too. My job is to awaken that knowing in you. I might have a perspective, and I might have a perspective that sometimes you don't see, because when we're in it, right, we don't always, sometimes it's so helpful to have a fresh perspective. And then sometimes I'm dead wrong, right? And that's okay too, because those are the moments when you're like, that's not it, keep going, that's not it. And that's when you tap into your knowing. So
Absolutely.
I love this, but I'm going to get to some of the questions.
Okay.
So Diana says, I had a dream about seeing a man's body with a needle in a big boat last night. Oops, not seeing it. It was bizarre. Sewing with a needle and thread. Okay, about sewing a man's body with a needle in a big boat last night.
So I'm going to ask you a question. So was she sewing the body?
Diana, I hope you're still on. Were you sewing the body? This is what I'm gathering. I had a dream about sewing a man's body with a needle and thread in a big boat last night. Yes, she was sewing.
Okay. That's really interesting. So if this was my dream, so first of all, if I was doing lightning dream work and we had the ability to actually interact, which it's kind of not going to work that way exactly. But the first thing I would ask the person is, how did you feel when you woke up from that dream? Because that's a really important question, in the sense that if I woke up from a dream that might sound scary to someone else, but when I woke up, I was jubilant. Well, that's telling me something. That's telling me something really important, which is, on some level, this dream is very positive to the dreamer. If I woke up and I was like, that was scary, okay, that's going to be another perspective. So I don't know how Diana felt about the dream. Then I would ask a few questions, and the questions, which, as I said, it's in the handout that I've sent to Victoria, so she's going to share that. The questions would be, first one is, how did you feel when you woke up? The next one would be,
I have an answer to that. She felt bewildered and confused.
Okay, interesting. And then the next thing I would ask is there any part of this dream that relates to your current life? Did you know the man? Do you go out in boats often? Do you sew? Are you thinking about a medical career? I mean, there might be certain questions that I would ask, because I would want to know. And also, is there anything in this dream that you could see happening in the future? And then the last question is, what do you want to know about the dream? And then the person will, share that. That's the point where I would share my perspective. And if this was my dream, knowing that I can't, I don't have as much interaction as normal, I would say a couple of things. I would say it's really curious to be on a boat. What is the boat? We think of the water as the unconscious. It's the world of emotions. If this were my dream and I was sewing a man together, I would say, is there a way that I'm thinking of healing? Is there someone that I want to help heal something? And it might be that, do you sew? If you don't sew, then that makes it even more unusual. But I might be asking.
She sews a little.
She sews a little. Okay. But yeah, I might be asking myself, and I would also want to say, did you know who this man was? Was it a person you know?
I didn't get the sense she did. She answered a bunch of questions, no.
Okay.
But I don't know what she was answering, but I think she did.
Okay. So just let's assume, it's someone you don't know. So being on a boat on the water, I would say, gosh, if this were my dream, I would be thinking about the unconscious. I would be thinking about emotions. I would be thinking about healing. Am I trying to heal someone? Am I trying to stitch something together? What am I trying to put together? Is there a particular person in my life? And that doesn't mean that the person in the boat, they might represent that person, even if they don't look like that person. Is there something about a particular man in my life that I'm trying to fix, that I'm trying to stitch back together? And it might be, on an emotional or a healing level. So yeah, I would think about those things. Now, one more thing about dreams is when I am actually speaking to someone about their dreams, after, I've asked the questions and they've gone through the whole process, and we obviously have more time to talk about it, I'm going to ask them to come up with a usually you come up with a title at the beginning so that you can remember what the dream is about and also kind of catalog it. And then the last thing is not the last thing, one of the last things is to come up with a bumper sticker. What's a one-liner that you could come up with that kind of sums up the knowledge that you've gotten from listening to and working with the dream? And then the last thing is, if there is an action that you need to take in your life to honor this dream, you might want to take it. If you recognize the person in the dream and you now get what that means, do you want to call that person up and chat with them? Do you want to write in your journal about it? Do you want to make a piece of artwork about it? You want to honor that dream so that your dreams feel respected and that they will continue to come back. So I hope that was helpful.
That was super cool. Diana will let us know if that was helpful, but I think that was super, super cool. I'm waiting to see if we have more questions. We had one question from in advance, but I'm going to save that one for a couple of minutes because I want to do my dream. Can we do my dream? Okay.
Sure.
So last night I dreamed, it's the first rain here, like I told you guys. And last night I dreamed that my house was leaking. There was a corner that was leaking. It was like, Diana, by the way, says super cool, relevant. So I think that's a thumbs up. And anyway, so back to my dream. So there was a corner of my house that was leaking. It was like not just like a little leak. It was like a flood of water. It was leaking on my artwork, so all of my portfolios and all of my art. And I was aware that it was the first rain, so I wouldn't have known that leak was there before. But it seemed in the dream that I inherited the house from my mother, and I was mad at her for not telling me about the leak. So yeah, heavy dream.
Wow. Okay.
I am going to check my storage area to make sure it's not leaking, but it has been tested because it was, and we fixed it. So anyway.
And how did you feel when you woke up from the dream?
I want to say bewildered and confused, but that's Diana's. Let me see. How did I feel when I woke up? I think mildly annoyed and curious.
Okay. And is there any part of this dream that relates to your current situation or that could happen in the future? Like, could it be a precognitive dream?
It could be a precognitive dream because, of course, this is our first big rainstorm. We've had a couple like thunderstorms, but like not with a lot of rain. They're expecting a lot of rain today. So it can be a concern, like, how will my house hold up in the rain? And we did some work in our crawl space and we filled it in for storage. So, and they did find a leak. And they did patch it up, but my contractor I'm not really sure about right now. So I am definitely going to go be looking in that area to see if it is literally leaking out my artwork. Almost everything is in plastic bins, but yeah. So yeah, it could be literal, and I'm going to check. But I did not inherit this house from my mom. So.
Okay, and then the other question is, what do you want to know about the dream?
I don't know. I had a dream, and I have a dream person on my Facebook Live. I don't know.
So sometimes there's something very specific you want to know about the dream.
Okay.
And if so, then it's good for me, to know what that question is or what that perspective is, so that I can speak to that.
Got it. Yeah. No.
But if
I
not,
didn't go to bed with any intentions or anything like that. I just had a dream.
Okay, great. So if this were my dream, the thing that I would find curious is, so houses can often represent ourselves, our souls, our lives. And so the fact that you inherited the house from your mother, and if this was my dream, and the thing that got wrecked in the house was my artwork, I might think, oh, that's really curious. Like, was there something in my life where, is your mother still alive?
My mother's still alive.
Okay. Was there something about my creativity and how my mother related to my creativity that might be coming up now in my life? Am I trying to revive my creativity, and my mother was someone who squashed it? And so now, whether she's saying those things or not in the current moment, am I dealing with the internal voices in my life that are saying, oh, you're not an artist, which we very often hear from my parents. I heard it myself, even though I ended up being a professional photographer for over 20 years. We all hear that stuff.
Right.
So it might be that there's a part of your mind, you know, that is trying to squash your creativity. Like, we're just going to dump water on it. That
Right.
is one thought. If it was my dream, I would kind of think about that idea. And especially if you woke up, especially if in the dream you were annoyed at your mother, because this can both be speaking to the past and speaking to how the past kind of shows up in our
Right.
present moment.
Yeah. No, I think that's spot on. And I think the artwork for me probably represented not just creative endeavors, which is what I thought. Like, I thought about, like, oh, my writing, but I'm actually about to undertake a creative and a pretty risky business venture. So my guess is it relates to that, and any kind of feeling of, insecurity or unsureness that maybe came through the female half of my lineage.
Yeah, and I forgot to ask you, so if you were to title this dream, Victoria, what would you title it?
Leaky house.
Okay, and if you were to think, now normally we do that at the beginning, I forgot.
Right. Well, I did in my mind because I knew you were going
to. Okay, perfect. And then if you were to come up with a bumper sticker, like just a short phrase after we've done this work that kind of sums up how you're feeling about the dream now, what might it be?
Seal the cracks.
Ah, interesting. And is there an action that you want to take? And it could be anything from, checking the leak to thinking about this new endeavor that you're going to do. Like, if you were to take an action to honor this dream and the information it's telling you, what would you do?
The one thing that comes through intuitively is that water is a cleansing.
Mm.
So it's almost like, just let it come through, let it take what it's already taken, clean it out, then seal the leaks and move forward.
Awesome. That's great.
Cool. All right. We'll see how that goes. Very cool. That was really fun. All right. I don't see any more people commenting, so I'm going to invite you guys to keep asking your dreamy questions. But in the meantime, Brenda, who I think is also on the live right now, asked ahead of time a question that we touched on a little bit in the episode about remembering your dreams, because a lot of times people wake up and they don't remember their dreams. I have the beautiful joy of being in menopause where I wake up all the time, so I remember everything because I'm up and asleep and up and asleep. But I have clients that just simply don't remember any of their dreams. What do you tell those people?
So it is rare that a person does not dream. And there's certain instances where certain medications and things you actually don't dream. But for the most part, like 99% of all of us dream. So what we're really saying is, I don't remember my dreams, not that I don't dream. And so in that case, if you want to remember your dreams, some of the best thing you can do is keep a notebook by the side of your bed. Commit to writing down anything when you wake up. You might have just a feeling, you might have an emotion, you might have a song running through your head. Write the song down when you get up later, figure out the words. If you have even the tiniest snippet, write that down in your dream journal as well. So keep a dream journal specifically for that right by the side of your bed. The other thing to do is to kind of invoke dreams by making the suggestion that you will remember your dreams when you wake up. And you can do that every night before you go to sleep. You can even ask a specific question if you have a specific question you want your dreams to speak about. So it's important to kind of create a little bit of a habit or a ritual. Tell yourself every night that you're going to remember your dreams. Be willing to write down anything, even if it means waking up in the middle of the night. And when I started to work with Robert Moss, which was around 2008, I had been an avid dreamer as a child, but I hadn't remembered my dreams in a long time. And so I was in a class, I was studying with him, and I literally made that suggestion to myself every night for 6 weeks. Now, that doesn't mean I remembered no dreams, but it took me that long to get back to remembering my dreams, where I would have 3, 4, 5 dreams a night. And there's also times in your life where, if you're a parent has young children, if you're a caregiver and you have to wake up in the middle of the night and be awake immediately and running to help that person, you know what? That's not conducive to remembering your dreams. And I totally acknowledge that. And you might just have to resolve to, okay, for a few years or however long, maybe I'm not going to remember my dreams so much. But we have other ways of working with dreams, which, you can utilize. But yeah, that's the best thing. Just write everything down and be committed to remembering them.
What about intention? What about setting the intention before you go to bed to remember your dreams? Do you think that helps?
Absolutely. So yeah, so as I said, I set that intention every night for 6 weeks before my dreams came back full blown the way they had as a child.
Okay.
And then I was a caregiver for a while, so my dreams kind of disappeared again. So you will have ebbs and flows in your life, and there will be times where your dreams are just not around, and there are other times where they're, really vivid, and you just have to kind of flow with that. But also, always, if you're wanting to remember your dreams, absolutely set that intention every night.
And Brenda says in answer to your answer, okay, great. I will do that. When I was younger, I would have crazy vivid dreams, and I wondered why I haven't had any lately. So thank you.
And also, sometimes we get so involved in the outer world, our jobs, our careers, our families, all the things we have to do, that it's hard to take that moment to just kind of settle into who we are. So, one of the things I would say is, if you are someone who looks at your computer screen or your phone, put it away for at least an hour before you go to sleep. Don't engage in things that are going to maybe get that part of your brain a little more active. You want to be in a rested place when you go to sleep. That's another new thing, which we didn't have to talk about before a few years ago.
That is very true. That is very true. And Diana says that's helpful about the ebb and flows too. Yeah, I agree. So I don't know if there are more people with dream questions or want their dreams interpreted. If there are, put it in the chat. I'm pointing at my phone, but wherever you are, put it there. But I also, while we're waiting for those to come in, I would also like to talk about, and I don't know what your experience is, but the way that we use our intuition, our dreams for intuitive guidance, and the way that you can consciously work with your dreams. So I'm going to give an example, a story, and then I want to hear what Thea has to say. I was making a decision about, I'm starting a business venture here where I'm buying a property to create a retreat center. And it's a hard time to buy a property in Southern California. Okay, like everything is really expensive. So it's a scary, scary step. I mean, it would probably be a scary step anyway, but it's particularly scary step with the real estate market the way that it is. And so I've been looking for almost as long as I've been looking for the house that I live in now, which took me 2 days. But the retreat center was taking a little longer. But I found a property that I liked. It's fallen out of escrow 3 times. Um, yeah. So I was contemplating an offer, and I put an offer in, and then my broker said, well, we can always take it back or change it in the morning if you need to. And so I went to bed and I set the intention, show me if this is the right number. Right. And I literally had a dream that their broker looked at my number and said, yeah, we can work with this. And I woke up in the morning and they counter offered. So yeah, contract signed, all of that good. Well, yeah, contract signed, all that good stuff. But I mean, sometimes it can really be like that. It was very, very literal. Now, it could be wishful thinking too. I mean, it could be, I kind of trust my dreams though. So I kind of believe that. And I want to hear what Thea says, that when I go to sleep, I can just let go and trust what comes through. But anyway, I share that story because I love your insight about my process and the
Yeah,
process, and if I can
absolutely.
trust it.
Yeah, so that's called cultivating a dream. And you can definitely go to sleep with a question. And your intention is you want to know the answer to that question. You can write it down, you can just speak it out loud. Um, and you might not get the answer right away. So if you set an intention and that night you don't have a dream that seems to speak to that, don't get disappointed. Keep asking it for 2 or 3 nights just to see what happens. And, I had when I was in my 20s, I was traveling and I met someone that I was completely convinced was my soulmate. And I was supposed to go back, like fly back to the States in a few days. And I was like, should I do this or not? And I asked the dream, like, should I go home or not? And in the dream that I had that night, there was a train traveling over the landscape. Sometimes it was on tracks and sometimes it was just on the earth. Now it worked fine both ways, but I noticed that in the dream I was upset when the train was not on the tracks. So when I woke up, I thought to myself, stay on track. Like, to me, that was the message of the dream, and I went back to the States, and it was actually a good decision. So there's a certain amount of, you have to be able to interpret what the message is in the dream, because it might not really seem to be related to what your question is. So you might have to do a little bit of digging or writing or something to see how does that figure. Now, here's the other thing about your dream, Victoria. In the moment that you had that dream, that might have been the answer.
Right.
And then you wake up and they're like, yeah, wait a minute, we thought this. So things can change, and your guides are doing the best they can to give you the most current information. And sometimes things change in the outer world. Nothing's written in stone. So, you might have gotten really good information in that moment. And then by the time you woke up, it had changed.
Right. I actually interpreted the dream as the broker's reaction was like, yeah, we're gonna, because this was my third offer. So the first two were flat out ignored. So to get countered was a good thing. Right. So yeah, would I prefer that to be the number? But my real question was, is this going to be, is this A, the right amount, and B, and I didn't get an answer to that question. I don't know. I got an answer to, this is the amount that will make them happy. Mm-hmm. So maybe I have to dream again to ask, is this the right amount, period?
Yeah, and the thing is, sometimes specifics like that, like numbers, are hard to get answers to, because in our physical world, those numbers are important, and in the world of our guides, they're like, it's just a number.
Yeah, time is like that too. A lot of times people will ask specific time frame, and I do know that some people do get predictions in time, but like our guides don't know from time. Like, they don't know from time. Your spirit doesn't know from time. Time is a very human thing. So you have to kind of like interpret those tiny things, I think, loosely. I've always found that.
Yeah.
All right, let me see if we have any more questions. Diana said, I did ask for clarity and fell asleep again and got a pinpoint needle. Was also neck pain I have. So the healing fits. Very cool. And she says, I'll ask tonight's dreams, to show me more about how to heal. Yeah, I love that. And I love using my dreams. The other thing, I don't know if we talked about this in the episode. I know I was chatting about this with another guest. I don't think we talked about it, but the other way I love to use my dreams is sometimes, like, if I'm dealing with something difficult, like maybe I have to have a really hard conversation with somebody, or I've done it a bunch of times with clients where I really don't know how to handle something, or I'm not sure how it's going to go. I'll kind of set the intention before bedtime to kind of deal with it. And then I'll have a conversation or work through it in my sleep. And I believe what's happening then is I'm connecting with the higher selves of the people involved. So I think there's some real work going on there. But it almost always works. It almost always gets the job done. So that's another way I love to use my dreams. And I've done this a number of times, a few times on personal things, but a lot of times on professional things when I just wasn't sure how to have that conversation with the client or a family or whatever. And when I woke up, I felt better. And then the actual conversation or movement in the situation was like much smoother.
And, I also want to address something which I thought we would have questions about this, and we might have people watching it later to ask about nightmares. Like, what about nightmares?
Yeah.
Because that's a big question that people often have. And I think of, and Robert thinks of, nightmares as unfinished dreams. And they're often unfinished because we leave before we get to the end where the solution is. And we leave because they're frightening. But
that's huge.
There's a few things to think about if you do have nightmares. One is, if you do wake up and your heart's pounding and you're like, often nightmares are about things that we have been unwilling to confront, fears that we have that we don't want to look at. Sometimes nightmares can be warnings to us, either about a current event or a future event. And if we're not willing to look at them, we're kind of missing the guidance of that really wonderful dream, which might be scary in the moment. And there's a few things that you can do if you do have nightmares. And I just want to go through this because I don't think we didn't talk about this in
I
the
don't
episode.
think we did, and it's a great
So this
topic.
could be, yeah, I thought it could be helpful. So one is that you can actually have dialogues. You can have a written dialogue with those aspects of a nightmare that might be frightening to you. Um, and the first thing is you can dialogue with your fears. And you can ask yourself questions like, what's blocking me, or what am I running away from, and why am I afraid to finish this dream? So you could literally just write out your answers, and that could give you helpful answers. The other thing you could have a dialogue with is your dream adversary. Ask what's menacing me. Who are you? What are you doing in my dream? What are you trying to tell me? And then sometimes just writing those questions out can give you the insight. You could re-script your role in the dream, especially if it's a recurring dream or a recurring nightmare. You could actually say to yourself, okay, the next time I have this dream, instead of running away, I'm going to turn around and face whatever it is that I'm afraid of. And I'm going to move forward in the dream to see what happens. And as I said, you can dream that dream onward, make a commitment to kind of keep going in the dream to see what happens. And the other thing is you can ask for allies. If you have a power animal and you have been having a dream that's really frightening, ask your power animal to come with you into the dream. There's a technique that I teach called re-entering a dream, where you can go back into a dream where you're kind of listening to shamanic drumming. You're going back into the dream. You're awake. You're going back into the dream in a relaxed state with an intention and an action. And so you could literally picture the dream, you lay down, put some shamanic drumming music on or some relaxing music, picture yourself going back into that dream, and then make sure that you enact what your action was going to be and that you fulfill the intention. And you very often can find out what it was that the dream was about. But the other thing too is sometimes when we have a really scary element in our dream, an animal or powerful, something like that, that is actually our ally. It's our dream ally, but we have not confronted our fear about how powerful that ally is. And if we're willing to say, okay, I'm not going to run away this time, then your ally can actually turn into the menace in your nightmare can turn into your ally. But you do have to be willing to turn around and face it, face your fears, face what's blocking you in life as well as in your dreams.
That's huge. You said so much. You said so much in all of that. I love it all. I would say I teach, for me, if I have a nightmare and I wake up, I go back into the dream and I like fix it. Like
Yeah.
if I don't like how it's going, usually I wake up, I'm like, okay, I'm going back in and we're going to like change things around. And I teach kids to do that too. I mean, I did a sleep book. Some of you guys know I haven't done anything with it yet, but it's all done. And our beautiful Jen Colombo illustrated it. It's gorgeous. And as the world's opening back up, I'll probably do something with it. It's for kids, but one of the techniques that came through, and it was all guided, and things that I use with the kids that I work with all the time. One of them is rewriting your dreams. So when you
Absolutely.
have a nightmare, you can prompt your child or yourself to go back in when you wake up and change the dream, kind of like you were saying. And then you can also do it outside of the dream state.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it with drawing with kids
Mm-hmm.
too,
Mm-hmm.
where, all right, let's go through the dream. Let's draw how it happened. Okay, now let's draw how we'd like to have it happen. Let's see, what would we like to change? And we just keep changing little things until the dream feels comfortable.
Oh, that's great. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
All right,
Yeah.
we have more questions now.
Awesome.
Julie asks, what would be the meaning of having a repetitive dream?
So a repetitive dream is often a dream that you have not resolved the issue. So consider that, your higher self, they're usually really kind. If they want you to take a look at something that for some reason you have not wanted to take a look at, they might give you a gentle dream. And then you kind of ignore it. So they're going to up the ante until you might get to the point where you're having a nightmare, because that's a slap upside the head. It's like, I'm sorry, we tried it more gently. You didn't want to listen. So, so a repetitive dream, you might want to, again, think of having a dialogue with that dream. Like, what parts of that dream keep repeating? Is there something about that dream that you are aware of on some level, but you're just quite not ready to deal with it. And so the dream has to come back to remind you. Now, sometimes those dreams are about health issues that we don't know it's a health issue. So the dream might coming back until we say, okay, I'm having a dream about plumbing all the time. Why would I be having a dream about plumbing in my house that's not working? Well, maybe the house is your body. Maybe you have to look at, how's my digestive system working? Am I doing something in the dream in a repetitive way that I can stand back from that dream and say, okay, why would I keep doing this thing? What is my dream trying to tell me? So that might be the question that you want to ask if you're doing a written dialogue, like, what am I not doing that I probably should deal with? Or what am I not dealing with that I probably should deal with that this dream keeps kind of reminding me of? So yeah, that's what I would say about repetitive dreams.
So you're driving to the intersection and your brakes don't work. What does that mean? That's my repetitive dream.
Oh, interesting. So it could be a precognitive dream. And in
I
one of
hope not. I've had it for years.
yeah,
So
okay. Well, I mean, but just to
it's
say,
like so
because
good.
Robert has a wonderful story in one of his books about, someone calling him, a friend of his calling him up in the early morning and saying,
Right.
I had a dream about being in a head-on collision, and
And
they
we
went
have
back
that.
into that
Yeah.
dream, figured out what it was. But if you're having a dream and it's been going on for years, you're at an intersection and your brakes don't work, huh?
Many intersections, stop signs, whatever. When I was a kid, it was going down a hill into my lake. So at least now it's not as scary. And it's always just like, you just can't quite stop. Nothing bad ever happens.
Uh-huh.
Except,
And
you're flying through an intersection that you should stop at, which is like scary.
yeah, and it might be that if this were my dream, I would think of it as, hang on a sec, because I'm going to cough. I'm going to.
Good.
It might be that some part of your dream is talking about, are your brakes working in your life? Is that element that tells you when to stop, when to put the brakes on, when to make sure, you don't say the thing that you, kind of are, wanting to say, but maybe that's not the appropriate moment. Like, are there moments where you should put the brakes on and you don't? That, so again, one of those dialogues, a written dialogue would be, what is this dream trying to tell me? Why, what part of my life seems to be a parallel to brakes not working?
Right.
And then you can sometimes discover that, because I mean, I could throw out some ideas, but
yeah, it's a recurring one. I always thought it comes up when I'm feeling out of control about something. But all right, we have another one, so I don't want to miss that. I've already had a lot of good time. Cindy asks, since I was a child, I had dreams where I'm in a big airport like space with escalators where I'm taking classes with all kinds of different people. Whoops. And as a kid, we're mostly grown-ups, and some of the people were dead, but that didn't present a problem for them. One of the classes was called steepness, which I now think could be the opposite of depth. Sorry, my screen keeps. Curious if this is a common dream. Oh, I have an answer to this one. Or are other people taking nighttime classes? Do I wake up very happy whenever I have it? All right, I'm going to see what you say. I got an answer for that too.
So yes, we actually do go to classes when we sleep. If you've ever read books by Robert Monroe, different from Robert Moss, Robert Monroe was an individual who spontaneously realized he could travel out of his body, and he went on a lot of adventures. And in one of his books, I think it was the second one, he talks about going to a class which he had gone to many times before he was conscious of it. Now he went back when he was conscious, and the teacher was like, "Oh, Robert, good to see you again." So yes, the answer is yes, we do. And it could very well be a class that could be attended by people who are incarnated in a body and people who are not. So that's fantastic. I would say
that's
great.
So cool.
I would also write down, any notes like, what did you learn, last night? So yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, we do.
Yeah, it's my understanding too, exactly, that we are still working when we are not in our bodies, and sleep is a chance to sometimes observe those visitations, or those, yes. Very cool. And Cindy says, yes, thanks, I'll check out Robert Monroe. And Julie asks, curious what the water element generally means in a dream. I keep having various types of dreams based around water.
So again, the symbol, you really have to discover what the symbol means for you, because there are some kind of traditional thoughts about water, unconscious emotions, and that might very well be what the dream means for you. Now, Victoria just talked about a dream where the whole idea of water was cleaning things out. And so you do have to think about what that symbol means to you, because it can mean, maybe you grew up sailing and to you water is joyful. And so you don't want to lay someone else's interpretation on your dream, because it might not be true. So think about your own associations with water, and you can try on the associations that are traditional, like, how does it work if I lay the overlay of that this is the unconscious world? What is the overlay? How does it feel to me if I overlay the idea that water means emotions, and think about it, try them on and see.
All right. I think that wraps. If there's any more questions, bring them on now. We have a couple seconds left. Check out the episode. We talk a lot more about how do you tell a precognitive dream from a more symbolic dream. We talk about all sorts of really cool things. So check it out. The podcast itself is going to be on hiatus for the next 2 weeks because we are all taking some time off for the holidays. We'll be back the first week in January with another amazing guest. I think, Jen, I don't know if we've firmed that up yet, but I think we're going to have a really cool guest and be able to do some readings that week. And we have some really amazing content next year. I'm so excited. We have, I'll give you a preview of our guests. We have Jacob Nordby, who's the author of The Creative Cure and Blessed Are the Weird. We have Robert Schwartz, the author of three of my favorite books on the planet: Your Soul's Gift, Your Soul's Plan, and Your Soul's Love, all about pre-birth planning. Oh, wow. So we have some good stuff coming up. So stay tuned, check it out, invite your friends to the group. I'll be doing more readings, teachings. I'm planning on probably doing a law of attraction manifestation little mini challenge in the Facebook towards the beginning of the new year, probably the second week in January. So save the date for that, and that'll be free and in the group most likely. And yeah, that's everything. So thank you guys always for tuning in, and we will see you probably most likely on the other side of 2022. Yay. And Thea, thank you so much. If people want to find you, get in touch with you, work with you, how do they do that?
So they can go to my website, which is thealitsios.com. And you can send a message to me that way. I do work with individual people in their dreams if that's something that you want. So I do dream work as well as life coaching. And please feel free to send me a note or say hello, and would love to hear more from you guys. And thanks so much, Victoria. This has really been fun.
This was a blast. Thank you so much, Thea. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Jen will have all that information in the comments, and make sure you check out the episode. And if I don't see you all again, happy holidays and namaste.